Running process. Right then, what is going on, guys? JJ Richards here, and welcome back to the Bodybuilding and Business Podcast, episode 9. And today, I'm joined by the lovely Vicky, aka the Tiny Titan. How are you doing, Vicky? You all good?
Yes, I'm wonderful. Thank you very much for having me on, JJ. It's good to see your face.
My absolute pleasure. So we've actually really only known each other really this past year.
Okay.
I've kind of seen you on social media, but obviously since interacting with each other, because we're both judged for the FitX, and then we've kind of had more personal interaction as well as on social media. So yeah, I've been kind of like I kind of mentioned before, I've been kind of following your social media quite closely recently because there's lots of things that you talk about that correlate really well with me, which obviously we'll come on to a little bit later. But to start off with, I think something that I find the most interesting with yourself, Vicky, is your diversity in terms of your coaching, because you're probably the most diverse coach that I've seen. And I remember it I was following you at the Fit Expo, and I remember the amount of athletes that you had competing. It's not just like you don't just prep females, you don't just prep males, you don't just prep bodybuilders. It's literally like the whole breadth of the strength and fitness world that you kind of have experience coaching in. So would you be so kind just to give us a little bit of introduction into yourself, your background, and obviously what led you to the wonderful and amazing coach and person you are today?
What an introduction.
She paid me to say that.
I know, I did. You did it very well. Right.
You.
Okay. So, all right. So my name is Vicky, obviously, with what JJ obviously just introduced me as, aka the Tiny Titan. Now I am a sports performance coach, and that is the reason why I have got such a huge array of diverse clients, because I don't just focus on aesthetics. I don't just focus on strength and power. I don't just focus on conditioning or cardio elements or endurance. I focus on the entire realm because my main predominant focus is nutrition. And the things that you can do with nutrition will manipulate anything that you want to do internally, which can in part show externally. So if I was to manipulate somebody's food in relation to a bodybuilder, I can make them look like a bodybuilder. Same thing in terms of driving performance for a strength athlete. Their nutritional intake and their nutritional needs will be completely different, but that's because I'm actually striving for performance as opposed to aesthetics. Now, of course, training does have an impact into these kind of things. Yes, they do. You cannot just feed somebody like a bodybuilder, train them like a strongman, and expect them to look like a strongman, or sorry, a bodybuilder. So the two do go hand in hand. And I've been in this game now for over 12 years because I'm very old. So I don't want people thinking that I am a spring chicken. You know, I know that I use a lot of Nivea, and this is the reason why I look very young, but I am very old.
And it's that purple lighting you've got going on as well.
It is. And you know what? It's so funny because I actually said to my other half, Oliver, I said, right, I'm on this podcast, and I think it's going to be done via video. So put the purple lighting on. It shows me in a much better light. But no, I've been in the industry for 12 years. I've been solely online coaching now for 7 years, running Titan Coaching. And throughout the years from there, I have just manipulated so many different people's and athletes diets and training, and I'm a bit of a geek as well. I'm a big geek when it comes to these kind of things. And the reason why it got me into or what got me into this is that I'm a qualified nurse. That was my original profession. And I have specialties in orthopedic surgery and gastrointestinal disorders. So things like celiac disease, people with hiatus hernias, lactose intolerances, irritable bowel, which don't get me started on irritable bowel. It's an absolute load of shite. But literally a load of shite. But people are diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome every single day. And any kind of issue that they have, the doctor literally will just say, you've got IBS. Well, IBS is basically a GP's excuse of saying, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you. So irritable bowel syndrome is ridiculous because bowels are irritable anyway. You know, the slightest thing can make them even more irritable and just decide to not function optimally. So just having a diagnosis of IBS is very, very blanket. And that's why it got me into nutritional derivatives and nutritional substrate use for the general population clientele, as well as then transferring over to athletes. So yeah, I use my nursing profession and cross correlate that over to my coaching profession, because the two do go hand in hand very, very well. So that was a bit of a roundabout kind of introduction to myself, wasn't it? So I apologize for the ramble.
No, that's fine. And in terms of obviously I know you compete currently, but what's your kind of like past experience in terms of competing? Have you ever dabbled in the strength arena, or has it always kind of been the aesthetics and bodybuilding, or a bit of everything?
No, so I actually first started off my career in well, aesthetics and strength, in bodybuilding. I did my first show back in 2015.
Okay.
Where I got a British title. So I won the athletic class for the BMBF, and that's where I got my British title from there. I then crossed over to powerlifting and actually started doing hybrid training. So I did powerlifting and bodybuilding in the same breath, because so many people were actually saying to me, you cannot do both and achieve medals in both. And I wanted to actually show that you could do that, as long as you actually structured your training and your nutrition in order to fuel both of those subjects. So that's what I did. And I ended up training for the Commonwealth. That was in 2018. So I competed for British powerlifting in the Commonwealth. Sorry, English powerlifting in the Commonwealth, and then competed and got a British title in the British bench press in the same year. I travelled over to Canada to compete in the bench press championships for England, and that was the Commonwealth, and I came home with a silver in the Commonwealth in the under 52 class. So I did that. I did the British in the same year. I got invited to the Worlds, and I also competed at the same year in bodybuilding. And again, got a British title in bodybuilding. So British title in bodybuilding, silver in Commonwealth, British champion in British powerlifting, with a Worlds invite to that one as well.
Not many people can say that.
Not in the same year, not in the same
No,
year. So I do see a lot of people who are bodybuilders, and they tend to kind of cross over to powerlifting in the off season because they want to get strong, which, to be perfectly honest, in my opinion, is not the best ideal situation to do, because hyper focus on bodybuilding in an in season and then hyper focus on powerlifting in an off season, because in season or competitive physiques are built in the off season. And yes, you want to get strong, but is the deadlift the most beneficial movement for a bodybuilder? Yes, because it builds massive posterior chains, but how much fatigue are you going to accumulate by doing a high rep deadlifts in an off season? Because we all know that 1 rep maxes are not actually going to drive muscle hypertrophy. It is just going to drive that systemic and neurological function to strength. So there is a way and means of incorporating the two. I've got a lot of hybrid clients on my books who just really enjoy the powerlift moves, and they enjoy looking.
And I've done that before in off season, where I actually find it quite motivating whilst I'm training, doing like the typical power building style of training, where I will start off with a powerlifting movement. Because I've not done that powerlifting to the extent that you. I did a couple of military competitions. I've done a couple of like local gym competitions. And I've done it just so I can chase a number, because one, it's fun. It keeps me motivated in the off season. I'm not training for a show, but then I will then do the bodybuilding stuff afterwards. So I have done that powerlifting style of training, and I honestly love it. It's one of my favorite styles of training to do.
It's excellent. And like I said, it does have a crossover effect, but you do have to be the frequency in which you do it. Because like if you were to do deadlifts, for example, on one day, say you did deadlifts on a Monday, right? And then on Tuesday, you wanted to do bench press. Well, realistically, is that going to have a crossover to your bodybuilding goals? So possibly. But then on Wednesday, you needed to do legs, but you also wanted to incorporate a hip hinge. So that's going to be 2 hip hinges, 48 hours apart. And regardless of whether it's a barbell or a dumbbell, you're still going to be building up quite a lot of fatigue. So the way that you need to actually structure your training, in my opinion, again, there's not only one way to skin a cat.
Absolutely.
I hate that phrase, because of course there's only one way to skin a cat, and who would want to skin a cat anyway? I think people are weird. That's what you want to do. But it's just about knowing how to program sections of your training so you are actually able to recover from those heavy lifts. And the thing is as well, is that contrary to popular belief, powerlifting does not actually contribute to CNS fatigue. It's actually endurance athletes that suffer more so from central nervous system fatigue than it does with accumulating heavy weights. So a lot of people will say, oh, you're going to build up all of this CNS fatigue. And it's like, well, actually, you're not. It's the endurance element of things and those fibers that are going to get hit more so. So marathon runners, Ironmen, triathletes, CrossFitters even, you know, when they're doing those really hard-ass WODs. And high rocks. High rocks is like the worst ever. I've got 2 clients at the moment who are competing in the London High Rocks.
Okay.
Have you heard High Rocks? Do you know what it is?
I haven't got a clue.
Okay, so it's disgusting. And sometimes I just kind of think to myself, why? Why would you want to do this? I have no idea. But all it is CrossFit, but at a body weight element. And you have to do a buy-in protocol. So you do 1,000-meter run, and then you go into a station. And then you do something along the lines of like 50 burpee broad jumps. Then you go and do another 1,000-meter run, and then do another station. And you do that for 8 stations altogether. So it's an hour's worth of working, but that is non-stop endurance and high intensity interval. So I mean, it's absolutely disgusting, but these guys CNS fatigue elevation is so high, and they eat more food than any of my
100%. A lot of cardiovascular athletes do, and it's funny because a lot of like these like named like ways of training now, like we did it in the army like 15 years ago. Someone has just been clever enough to brand it and put a name on it, because it was that very much like endurance bodyweight style training for a long period of time. So like we did it for a long, that's pretty much what we did in the military primarily. So I know it is very difficult, and the calorie expenditure is going to be way higher for something like that than it is going into a gym for 45 minutes to an hour with various rest periods in between. So you think about if you're in the gym for like an hour, the amount of time training is probably less than what you are resting anyway. So you're probably actually only at, burning calories for a short space of time in the hour, because it's not like the whole 60 minutes where you're actually utilizing calories. Whereas when you're doing endurance events and CrossFit and things like that, it's literally like your body is just like, give me fuel, give me fuel, give me fuel constantly. Yeah, absolutely. Fair play. Yeah. Good. So that's a really good in-depth background on yourself. And it's very, very impressive as well. And I think it is important, I believe, as a coach, to be able to like walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And that's why I was quite interested in if you've had the experience and obviously the strength element, as well as obviously the physique element as well. And obviously the fact that you've done both to a really high level with your knowledge and your background is why you are the coach you are today, because all of those 3 marry up together really nicely. So you've walked the walk, you've got the knowledge and education, and you've put it in practice, and now you've put it in practice with a lot of clients as well. So that's phenomenal. You haven't just done one show and been prepped by someone and used your before and after pictures and said you're now an online coach.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that. It's my biggest bugbear.
I'm not saying I ever see that happen.
No, of course not. Of course not. It happens every bloody 6 months. Oh, look, here I am. Now I'm a prep coach taking on prep clients. Right. For everybody who is listening, if I can just give you one piece of advice, people who look the way they do on social media and just kind of go, look, I've done a show, regardless of whether they've won or whether they've got third or whatever. If they then say, I am now taking on prep clients, please do not go to them. Doing a bodybuilding competition prep is far more scientific than people actually give credit for. Because it is not a healthy sport. And if you want to walk away from stage or walk into stage as healthy as you possibly can, I am not going to say you're going to be healthy. Absolutely hell no. I am.
But a healthier way of doing it.
A healthier way, right? I am 3 weeks post-show this Saturday. So like 2.5 weeks post-show today about the time of recording. And I am still unhealthy. My hair is really thin and dry. I'm getting splits in my skin, and it's literally just down to malnourishment. And I'm not going to say that my calories were low, because they weren't, but my macronutrient split was not optimal for optimal health. And
it's more the micronutrient deficiency rather than the macro as well, isn't it, that people forget?
Absolutely. And the types of food that we need to consume as well. It's very, very easy to kind of give somebody a macro split and say, right, here you go, off you fuck, I'll speak to you in a week. But you could say you've got 40 grams of fat, right? Which for a female on prep that's fairly high. But if you fill 40 grams worth of fat with chocolate all the time and peanut butter, then your internal health is going to be dog shit. Yeah. And it's the same thing with getting all of your carbohydrates from bagels. You know, it's not going to be efficient for you. You're not going to utilize them to the best way that you need to be able to utilize them. Yeah. And I see that a lot with coaches now. They just kind of go, here are your macros, off you go, and I'll speak to you in a week or whatever like that. And it's the same with performance nutrition as well. Nobody gives peri-workout timing advice. Nobody gives specific supplement advice. Nobody gives even food lists these days, which is just like, well, how are you supposed to know? Yeah. You know, even if you're very, very confident in macro counting, what about the types of food? Yeah. And I've been berated for it before, right? Because I put a post out not so long back in terms of a macro just isn't a macro. You know, shitty foods are going to have a different impact into the way that you look and the way you perform and the way you feel, as opposed to actually pretty decent foods. And I'm not saying you can't have, you know, quote unquote bad foods. There are no good and bad foods, but I'm not saying you can't have elements of that into your diet. But if you predominantly fill your food and your meals full of shit, then you're going to feel like shit and you're going to act like shit and you're going to feel like shit.
But what you said, that's 100% correct. It's really funny. I had a conversation with one of my PT clients literally about 2 days ago. And she was just asking me in terms of, like, you know, calorie management, and said, you know, if I was to just eat, like, say her calorie number for a deficit, let's just say it's 1,500 to make it really easy. And if she was eating 1,500 calories, she'd lose body fat. And she said, if I just use that calorie amount and ate burgers, could I still lose body fat? I said, technically, yes. However, you've got to see it as more as just losing body fat. And you've got to look at the whole aspect of why we eat, like the whole element of nutrition, macro and micronutrients. So I said, what I would love to do is get two identical twins, put them on the same amount of calories, all variables the same as possible. One of them eats nothing but what, let's just call it junk food, processed crap. And the other one is eating good quality, fresh, like macro and micronutrients packed food. Put them on the same amount of calories, the same training program. I guarantee you the person eating a better quality food is going to have better results. One, because they're going to perform better because they're putting better quality fuel in their body. They're going to recover better because they've got better quality proteins in their body. The skin's going to be better. The hydration's going to be better. Like, you know, the whole internal system's going to be better. So it's not just solely about calories in versus calories out. And that's what drives me crazy. I know, you know, James Smith, that's what made him the man he is today, just by saying calorie fucking deficit. But it is not as simple as that if you want to kind of look at the reasons as to why we actually need to utilize nutrition, not just for training at a high level, but just for anybody to perform. Like, you put shit in, you put shit out. It's as simple as that, and it's not more complicated than that. And yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because that just triggered that conversation I had. Because she was like, oh, why wouldn't you do it with yourself? Why don't you try and, like, you know, review your results? I said, because there's no way in hell I'm gonna eat processed junk, chemical based food for like any period of time, full stop. I like to experiment, and I experiment with myself a hell of a lot in terms of nutrition, just because I'm like you, I'm a bit of a geek, but I like to experiment on myself. But I'm not willing to do that. It's like that bloody McDonald's one that guy did. Not a chance.
Oh yeah, the McDonald's diet and the Twinkie diet as well, you know. So there was a very famous study with a guy called Professor Mark Taub, and all he basically did was want to prove the point that it was just CCO, right? Calories in, calories out. And all he basically did was eat Twinkies. Now Twinkies is just like a little American donut, which is deep fried and it's filled with cream. It basically never has an expiration date. So that just goes to show how much of a good quality food source it is. But the thing is, right, yes, okay, he lost weight. Now, I really, really want to differentiate the fact that he lost weight. If you just want to lose weight on the scales, absolutely go for your life. You can eat a calorie deficit. You can just eat one meal of burgers a day and that will basically be your 1,500 calories. Because let's face it, a McDonald's with, you know, fries or whatever, that's 1,500 calories. You're going to be fucking hungry because that's all you're going to be eating a day. But if you also think about the human physiology, where if you were to consume fat, where does fat get laid down in your body? Yeah, it gets laid down in your fat cells. Okay, that's the only place where you are going to store fat, unless you are a big bodybuilder and you've got a lot more space for intramuscular triglycerides. But even your intramuscular triglycerides is a very, very, very small portion of your muscle, right? Carbohydrates, they get laid down into your muscle and into your liver. That's where they are stored. It's only when you overspill in terms of carbohydrates, then they will spill over into your lipid cells or your fat cells. But fat will not go anywhere apart from your fat cells in your body. Now, it's very, very easy to overconsume fats because it's very small in terms of volume. You know yourself, if you were to just put, you know, some butter on your baked potato or something like that, and you were just to eyeball it, the difference between 10 grams of butter and 20 grams of butter to the naked eye is not that much.
No.
You know, same thing with full calorie mayonnaise, right? I mean, my other half loves mayonnaise, and he literally just kind of goes,
I hate it.
I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. But the amount, we actually did it picture by picture, the amount of a serving size, which is 15 grams per Hellman's measurements, and the amount that somebody would just literally drizzle over their salad, for example, it ain't 15 grams, but the amount of calories that go into that and the amount of fat that you are going to store down, because mayo is predominantly a fat source, there's nothing else in it, it's just pure fat. All of that is going to get laid down into your fat cells. So if you were to just use your client example for that you just said about 1,500 calories and just get it from burger, yes, you will lose scale weight, but you're also going to lose muscle tissue, and you're also going to lose lean tissue and lean body weight. Predominantly, your fat cells are going to stay where they are. You're not going to lose a lot of body fat. So your body composition is going to be hella different, as opposed to somebody who would actually be primarily losing body fat as opposed to wasting muscle. Because don't forget, muscle is extremely important, extremely expensive to keep on your body. Your body doesn't like storing muscle because it's tough to keep on it. So if it's going to lose anything, it's going to take away from your lean tissue as opposed to
that is a really, really good way of explaining it. That is really, really good. And that's when most people don't think about it. And that's why, you know, I hate the whole just calories in versus calories out argument, and the whole if it fits your macros, and people, oh, I'm saving all my macros for the evening so I can have ice cream before bed. And it's like, yes, okay, the scale's going to go down, but it's just like that. And again, I'm quite precious on just quality of foods as well. Like, you know, chemically based product foods, like processed foods and things like that. The body just isn't programmed to digest that kind of stuff. It's not, those chemicals that they put in our foods, the processed stuff, is not designed to be in the human body. And that's the kind of stuff that I have a bit of an issue with. And that's why I don't really like just doing that. If it fits your macros, or, oh, well, actually, I've got X amount of grams of carbs and fat, so I can have ice cream. You're not going to net the same results, whether that's, you know, a good quality fat source, a good quality carbohydrate source. And it, like, you know, going on to the performance aspects, you know, that's your more your bag than mine. It's you'll perform differently if you're putting better quality foods in your body. It's like putting, you know, cheap fuel in a bloody Formula One car. They're not using the same crappy fuel that we're using. They're using the highest performing fuel possible to get the best out of that vehicle. And that's, you know, as athletes, that's what we've got to look at as well, is putting the best quality in to get the best quality out. Great.
Yeah. And you can still transfer that over into your general population clients as well, you know, because general population clients, I mean, you PT one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the majority of people, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but the majority of people who come to you, they come to you because they want to look good naked. They never come to you and they actually say, do you know what, JJ, I want to improve my health. I want to improve my standing jump or my javelin. They don't do that. They want to come to you because they want to lose weight and they want to look good naked. Fine, fabulous. Get them into a calorie deficit, get them moving, get them strong. They're going to have certain changes in terms of their aesthetics. But you only are with them 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week if they pay you for a little bit more. You know, it's 1 hour a week is great because they get to see you, you get to motivate them, you get to ask them about their diet, and they're going to say to you, yeah, well, do you know what, JJ, I had a pizza last night. And you're like, okay, let's go and see what's actually.
It's literally like you've got a microphone listening to my conversations.
I know, it happens all the time. But this is it. And do you know what? When I used to do one-on-one PT, I used to get this all the time. And I specifically never asked them about their nutrition until halfway through the session, because I could see that they were either sweating more, they were out of breath, they were having to take longer rest periods, they weren't motivated to go and do the hack squat. Not that anybody is ever motivated to do the hack squat, because it is gnarly as fuck, especially if you do it right. But halfway through the session, I was saying to them, okay, did you have a pizza last night? Or did you have a meal off plan last night? And they were like, yeah. How did you know? It's like, because of the way that you're performing. So I know. Now, when somebody comes to you and they say to you, right, I want to look good naked, the easiest thing to do is actually say, do you know what? The first thing we're going to do is analyze your diet, analyze how you move, analyze how much hydration that you're getting in. Because if we change all of those negative systemic markers on the inside, you're automatically going to start looking better on the outside. And everything starts from internal mechanisms, not just from a physiological perspective, but from a psychological perspective as well. You get somebody into the gym and they're feeling happy, they're going to have a damn good session. You get somebody going into the gym and they're in a bit of a low mood and that kind of thing, they're going to half-ass their session. They're not going to do their glute bridges as well as they should have been doing, you know, that kind of thing. As long as you can actually get their mindset triggered and you're like, okay, now we're happy, you're in a happy place. You're not just in a happy place with me here, but you're actually happy all the way through the week until I see you again next week. You're going to see a marked change. And that's the reason why I work a lot in terms of athlete psychology or just general population client psychology. Like I had a consultation with the guy yesterday, amazing human being. I'm really looking forward to working with him. But at the moment, his wife's pregnant and he's put on like something along the lines of like 20 kilos just to be busy with work. And it's like he was saying, thank God she is pregnant at the moment, because when I take my top off and get into bed, I feel disgusted and I wouldn't want to have sex with me at this moment in time, but just because of the way that I look. And that's a guy who's, you know, let's face it, some guys don't really care what they look like when they take their top off. And guys are blessed because in the gym and even in their off season, they still look like they train. Women, unfortunately, don't look like that. Sometimes we just look like an overinflated potato and it's like, oh, well, you know, gaining season. But for somebody to actually have that internal self-perception of their own self and they feel that way about their own body, the minute we can get them actually talking more positive and acknowledging self-perception in a more positive way, they're going to put more effort into everything else that we give them. So psychology and internal mechanisms like that, I always talk about internal happiness makes a peaceful mind. And it does. You know, if you're internally happy with yourself all the time, you're going to be at peace with everything that you need to do, meaning that you will tick off all of those boxes, including your nutrition.
Absolutely. And it's funny you said that's one thing, though, when we kind of talk about like, you know, general population and British society in general, we have a really unhealthy relationship with food. And for example, I've got two clients, a mother and daughter, and the daughter is very, very, very large. And her mum is always badgering her, saying, oh, you need to stop eating this, you need to stop eating that, you need to stop eating this. And I'm like, okay, the conversation you're having with her is incorrect. I said, there's triggers and reasons as to why people eat the foods that they eat. And most of the time, from my experience, is that people in general, and I think it's the way that the system's designed, is to break people. So a lot of the times now that most people are unhappy, okay, we're overworked because more money is taken from us, from the powers above. So we work, okay, for very little life in return. And what that's doing is creating a very unhappy nation of people. And if you're not getting happiness from work, you're not getting happiness at home in your relationship because you don't see each other. I know some people that the dad goes out to work during the day, he comes home, says, hi, babe. He looks after the kids. She goes to work in the evening. Are they happy? No. So they're not getting happiness from the relationship. They're not getting happiness from the social life or the family life because it doesn't exist. The only thing that they're getting short-term happiness from is when they're eating something that tastes nice, that triggers a feel-good, like a little bit like serotonin release because they're eating something that tastes nice. And that's the only thing that's kind of giving them happiness in their life. So going back to the client I was talking about, I was like, you know, she doesn't work, she doesn't have a job, she doesn't have any friends, she doesn't have a social life. The only thing that makes her happy is when she's eating cake. Because she enjoys that. It feels nice while she's eating it. Then you're back into that shit cycle. And until you can find happiness and purpose and things that bring you happiness outside of the requirement of gaining that, whether that's food, whether that's alcohol, whether that's drugs, you know, people, we all have the same thing in common. We all want to be happy. You won't ever meet someone that says, do you know, I want to be the most depressed, miserable fuck in the world. Everybody strives for happiness. And we all try and get that from whatever we can. Some of us are fortunate enough that we get it from our relationships, we get it from our jobs, we get it from our family life. Happy days. It's easier for us to be more controlled because we don't necessarily require that happiness to get from food. And that's one of the biggest issues that I see a lot of the times with general population now, is that that's the main reason why people are overindulging. It's just for that short fix of happiness, which then leads into waking up the next day. And then it's that whole guilt feeling. And then it's a whole, I feel shit, I look shit, I eat shit. And it's that big shit cycle that people get stuck in. And until you can find a reason to pull yourself out of that, it's really, really difficult.
I think I totally agree with you on that side of things as well. And I think this actually comes down to the nation as a society has also turned into a nation of feeders and a nation of opinionated arseholes.
Okay.
Because you can see somebody walk down the street with a Greg's pastry and nobody will bat an eyelid. But if you see somebody walking down the street with a Tupperware of chicken and rice, you're going to look at them like they've got two fucking heads and just be like, what's that all about? And you'll also have people when they go out to a restaurant as a family and, you know, people you haven't seen in a while, and they choose a dish that they just want to have, say that it's, you know, salmon and vegetables, or say that it's Caesar salad, and everybody else is getting burgers and fries or chicken wings or barbecue pit beans or whatever. And then you get these people and they just turn around to you and say, oh, you're boring. Well, why am I boring? Why am I boring for having a salmon dish? Because I really enjoy salmon.
But from the external point, that it is boring because for them, eating something that brings them happiness is considered fun.
But is it the fact that they're calling them boring because they're having salmon and everybody else is having burgers, because burgers causes them happiness, so that's the reason why they're calling this person boring? Or is it just for the simple fact that they're actually so unhappy with themselves, so they have to over criticize somebody who's actually 100%. Doing something about it?
It's both. And what I always say is that social pressure is the biggest reason why most people won't stay on track. And I say to people, like, so, you know, we both compete in bodybuilding, you know, sitting down at a meal with Tupperware, that's just, you know, the norm for us and my friends and family. But if people that I don't know see me doing that, they will ask questions. And I always say that people don't like seeing other people doing something that they can't do themselves. So if me and you were sat there and I'm sat there tucking into my burger and fries and all this kind of stuff, and you're sat there with your salmon and potatoes and veg, and I'm like, God, why has she got this bloody discipline that I don't have? I don't like the fact she's got something that I don't have. We live in a very jealous society. Like, as soon as you see someone driving around the car in a Ferrari, you think, what a prick. It's what people do. They're probably, you don't even know who they are. They're probably a really nice, hard-working individual. But we live in a prick. Don't listen, Rick.
No, Rick. Oh, dig our man Rick from Strong.
so that is why it's jealousy. And I say to people all the time, listen, if your friends, say for example, you're eating this, they say, oh, you know, why are you eating healthy or whatever? Because intrigue, conversation, oh, I've got a current goal at the moment. I'm really, passionate about achieving it. If they turn around and criticize you for that or tell you that you're boring, guess what? You need new fucking friends because they are not friends. They should go, that's really good. Well done. Really proud of you. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing your progress. That's a friend. So we need to be mindful of the social like circles and people around us that are influencing us, because like social pressure is massive. And just because they have to, get happiness or get fulfillment from eating a bag because it makes them feel good about themselves, that might not actually bring you that much happiness.
No,
So,
we won't do anyway. But it's not just the social peer pressure as well. I think it's everywhere. I mean, the big argument of one of them is that the main sponsor for the Olympics, the last time it was on, was McDonald's. And it's like, man, come on, this is
and football's
sport.
like Carlsberg, Carlin, all alcoholic. Yeah, it is. But unfortunately, like,
It's what brings in money.
You're probably going to go crazy conspiracies here. I'm a little bit in that way, but the whole system is designed to make us poor and to make us die. Okay, because overpopulation's a thing, and the more skint we are, the more we rely on the government, which gives the government more power. The more unhealthy and weak we are, means we rely on more medication, which substance that kind of goes towards big pharma, so on and so forth. Like, and until someone can tell me that that statement isn't true, I will believe it until the day I die. Because in my opinion, that's what the system is set up to do. And so many people are in that. Like, how many people in the UK, if you walk to like the supermarket now, how many of them are on antidepressants?
Oh God, all of them.
Loads. Loads. And I guarantee you, most of them have an issue with weight and an issue with food.
Yeah.
Okay. If you go to the doctors, and I had a very long conversation with a GP that stayed with us for a week not long ago. If you go and see a GP and tell them you're feeling low, you're feeling X, Y, Z, how many of those people are going to turn around and say, okay, talk to me about your nutrition. Okay. Talk to me about your like activity levels. Talk to me about your social life. Like, or because they've got like a 15-minute bloody timer that they've got to see you. It's like a sausage factory. You're in and out. They've got a 15-minute timer that they've got to see you, right up the nuts. It's like, whoop, there you go. Get yourself some fucking medication.
Exactly.
Great. We don't look at the root cause of problems. We look at masking problems. And that is a huge issue.
It's putting a Band-Aid over shit.
Exactly. And soon it's going to just come off. And unfortunately, that's what happens all the time. And that's why I have a huge issue with even that. You probably know better than me because you were in it longer than me. But just that aspect of where we just throw medication at everything, rather than trying to utilize like the root cause of it. And it's crazy
it's because it takes too much time. It's because
Exactly.
it takes too much time, JJ. And the funniest thing about antidepressants is that a side effect of antidepressants is depression.
I know.
So
I know loads of people on them. I know loads of people on them. Like, it is crazy how many people use them. And I always say, like, listen, find the root cause, but you're going to have to sit down with yourself, have a very difficult conversation, and make a very difficult change. Maybe you're really not happy in your relationship. Maybe you're really not happy in your job. But we have one shot on this planet as the human beings we are. Don't fuck it up. Like, make the really hard, difficult decisions, because although it's going to be difficult now, in a year's time, you will thank yourself that you did it.
Oh, totally.
You might have to make some really big jumps, and people might think, wow, like, why is he doing that? Because like people always say, I'm really strange. I'm like the 1% of the population. My brain doesn't function like normal people. And people always say, like, everything I've ever done, they're like, do you enjoy what you do? I'm like, what a stupid fucking question that is. And they go, what? I was like, do you think I would do this if I didn't enjoy doing it? And they look at me really strange, like, huh? Because they might be in a 9-to-5 that they absolutely hate. Like, if you think of, how long we're awake for, we're awake for 16 hours. If, 8 of those hours are at work, maybe more usually, especially these days, because we're trying to work for overtime because people are now trying to pay for the electricity bills that have gone up for no apparent reason, and council tax and all that kind of crap. Like, people are working more than 8 hours a day. And it's like, if you look at how many hours are left in a day, not much. And that's I always say, you know, you need to work to live, not live to work.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
people are just stuck in that rut and that rat race. And I'm so grateful that I've never been involved in it. And if there's a point where I don't like something that I'm doing, I take the leap of faith and leave and jump ship and do something else. Because at the end of the day, my happiness is my priority, because I've got a wife, I've got 2 kids. The better I am, the better we are as a family. And yeah, we don't need to rely on external things. I've got a client and she cannot get her head around the fact that me and Lucy can go out, have the best time ever, and not have a drop of alcohol.
Oh yeah, totally.
Her brain,
That's
I
weird,
see
right?
her. She's great. She's like, we have such a good laugh, but her brain could not compute it. It is literally like, huh? So you won't even have a glass of wine? I said, for one, I'm a Northern ex-squaddy from Hull. I'm not going to sit and drink wine. Like, like,
no, you're going to have an espresso martini instead.
I do love an espresso martini. That is my bag. That is the one thing I would have. Like in Christmas time, we do crack out the coffee machine and have an espresso martini. But like,
hell yeah,
we don't need to go out. Like me and Lucy went out yesterday. We had a bit of time off. I said, listen, let's go out for a coffee. I had a black coffee. We sat there and we talked about some crazy things about the world and this, that, and that. We sat there for about an hour and a half. And we had the best time ever just talking about things, because we get quite deep sometimes when we're having these conversations. And it wasn't, you know, we didn't need to sit there and have bloody like some shit food or some processed crap. We didn't need to rely on alcohol. Yeah, just our company alone with a delicious black coffee was enough for us to have the best time ever. We come back, was like, really enjoyed that.
Do you know what? Can I just interject on that side of things as well?
Can.
I really, really want to hone in on that point. So me and Oliver do exactly the same thing. We go out and we have coffees and we just have chats and things like that as well. And we don't bother doing anything else. But do you know what? When we went out for dinner not so long ago, we were sat across from each other and we were holding hands and we were just actually having a conversation. And we like people watching.
Yeah.
I love people watching, right? I'm a big social people watcher. And as we were looking around ourselves, we saw couples either on first dates or, you know, they've been together for a while or whatever like that. And you know what? Their heads were buried in their own individual phones. And then scrolling through social media. And I honestly think that in this day and age, people have actually forgotten how to converse. People have forgotten the art of conversation and just the art of being with each other and just having a conversation. I mean, it was funny because, again, last night, me and Ollie were just chilling out. We were just watching an episode of something or other on TV. And this woman actually said they were in couples counseling. Big thing in America. You know, one thing goes wrong, right, we're going to go and have relationship counseling. And she said to him, I married you because I want to get to know you better. And I was like, well, surely that's like upside down. Surely you should like want to get to know this guy before you marry him.
It wasn't that Love is Blind or Marriage at First Sight, was it, or something like that?
Oh God, no, we don't watch that kind of shit. No, I think it was Dexter that we were watching actually.
Okay.
Dexter. But yeah, and it's like, again, coming with social peer pressure and things like that, people will always have an opinion, but all of a sudden people have forgotten how to talk. I mean, when we sit down and we have dinner together as a family with my 2 kids as well, I will always say to you,
Vicky?
Say again.
How old are your kids?
My daughter's going to be 17 at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And my son is 13.
Okay.
So I've got teenagers. So realistically, I don't have children anymore. I just have 2 strangers that live in my house and come out every night for feeding. But yeah, you know, when we have a protected meal time, because it is something that I do cherish, we always say no phones at the table. No phones at the table. You know, we are
same. We're exactly the same.
It's really important. And I think it's important as well from a social perspective, especially for your kids, that they learn how to talk. And you can talk to them about these kind of things and you can bring them up, because again, in education now, you do not get taught anything about nutrition, anything about exercise. You get taught nothing. You ask my 2 kids about how many macronutrients or what kind of macronutrients in eggs, cheese, beef, whatever like that. They can tell you like that.
Right.
You know, and it's because we've sat down. I used to put my son on the kitchen counter when he was little, teaching him how to cook. And he's always done that now.
So let me play devil's advocate. This is that Max, me and you are on the same wavelength. So if a new wokey, as I like to call them, turned around and said, but by you teaching your kids about nutrition and you making them so body conscious, that's going to really mess with their mental health, because they're always worried about how they look and what goes in their body. What would your response be?
I never, ever, ever speak to them about their body.
Yeah.
It is only if and when they come to me and they say, I'm feeling a little bit unhappy with my body, then I will speak to you about their body image. However, I educate my children on health.
Yeah.
Because that is the main prerogative.
Yeah.
The kid, don't get me wrong, the kids are still kids. You know, if they want some, you know, chicken nuggets or something like that, then they'll have chicken nuggets. That's fine. But educating them about what is in their foods is very different than saying, you should not eat this, you should not eat that, you should not eat this. There is never, ever, ever a dictatorship. And that
give them the knowledge so they can make the choice.
Exactly. You can lead
a
horse to water, but you cannot make him drink.
Yeah.
You know, you can educate somebody as much as you bloody like on the importance of macronutrients, nutrient timing, time efficiency in the gym, tempo, rep ranges, everything. If they just want to go, yeah, that's great, I've written down everything, I'm really excited about it, and then they fuck off and just basically have a whole stack of pancakes and, you know, do nothing but cardio all the time, then they're not listening to you. You can educate somebody till you're blue in the face, but they're the ones that have to actually imply it.
Yeah, 100%. We're the same. And even with, like, you know, like I think you call them general population clients, or I call them lifestyle clients. I always preach like the 80-20 model to those kinds of people. I'm like, if 80% of what you're eating is good quality, nutritious, healthy foods, the 20% is a little bit of what you fancy. Maybe it's a glass of wine, maybe it's a bit of pizza, maybe it's this. That to me is perfect. Like, for those because you're going to achieve your goals long term. You're still like not feeling, because I hate the word diet. I can't stand it. It's the worst word for me ever, because it has a short term like connotation. I just don't like it because it has an end date. And
it does have an end date,
changing habits.
Do you know how I see it? I look at diet, because I don't like the word diet. I don't like the word diet plan either. I think that's horrendous, because I think it stands for, did I eat that?
Okay.
You know, diet, did I eat that? All of a sudden, if you're on a diet, it automatically makes you think restriction. Oh my God, I can't eat this because I'm on a diet. Okay. No, just switch your mind in thinking that everybody is on a diet, because your diet is your nutritional intake. Swap your mindset from diet and exercise to nutrition and training. All of a sudden, you've got a different perspective.
And habits. That's what I always preach. It's just make habits permanent. And we'll move into a little bit of the next segment, because there's something that I've been doing recently which is interesting, and partly it's kind of what you know, you talk a lot about reverse dieting, and I've probably been to 20 bodybuilding shows this year. I'm going to 2 this weekend, and there's a huge issue in terms of let's just stick to bodybuilders and eating disorders.
Yeah.
And every time I'm at a show, I sit there and I'm listening, like females as well as males, so we've had both as bad as each other, and all they're fixated on is what they're eating when they get off stage. And so really quickly, right, so I've been doing an experiment over about the past 4 months where I've been in a deficit. Like, my carbohydrate intake has probably been 100 or less for about 4 months. Okay. Pretty low for me. My cardio every day has been an hour every day. I have one clean off-plan meal a week. Normally when I'm at shows and expos, me and my wife love Turkish food. Nice, you know, grilled chicken kebab with rice, salad, lovely. And what I have done is I'm trying to prove a point, because I've competed 18 times in bodybuilding, and I've done everything you can think of. I've had the eating disorders. I've had the cupboards full of shit food that I don't even look at. So I'm, you know, I've done it. And that's why I'm trying to understand, actually, that's a really bad behavior. I need to change it. So what I've been doing for the past 4 months is trying to prove that if I can be in control of this, it's such a powerful tool. I'm pointing to my head in case anyone's listening just on audio, not my bicep. So what I'm trying to do is prove that you can get in very, very good condition very good condition, and not let your personal life be sacrificed, not let energy, training, or performance deteriorate. And most people would say you're crazy, but trust me, I'm doing it right now, and none of those things have been impacted. Like, I'm lean. I put a picture on my Instagram page this morning, and I've got veins coming out of everywhere. Like, I am lean. I've got striations in my glutes. Like, my glutes look better than most people's do on stage that I've seen this year. Okay. And my energy levels are through the roof. My business performance has been really good because I haven't let it impact it. My relationship with my wife and my kids is as good as ever. And the reason being is this is the kind of thing that I've learned, is that when you're fixated on a day, so let's say, for example, I'm like, right, I'm prepping the shows in 16 weeks. Okay. Laser focus, 16 weeks. That then becomes 15 weeks. That then becomes 14 weeks. That then becomes 6 weeks, 5 days. That then becomes 6 weeks, 4 days. That then becomes, fuck, is it time to eat because I'm so hungry? Then it becomes, oh my God, I can't wait for this process to be over. Then it becomes, oh my God, I'm 3 weeks out. Where's the nearest restaurant that I'm going to eat after my show? Then it's like, I'm 2 weeks out. I'm really hungry. Oh, I'm going to buy these cookies and put them in the freezer. Then before you know it, you spend 100 quid on crap food that you don't even eat. I've done it. And because I'm not fixated on a date, and all I've done is said to myself, I don't eat processed crap, very rarely. I just don't do it. Okay. Every day I do an hour of cardio. It's what I do. There's not an end date to it. Because it's not like, oh my God, I've got 10 cardio sessions left, 9 cardio sessions left, 8 cardios. I wake up every morning, I do an hour of cardio. It's fixed, it's set, it's what I do. I eat in a calorie deficit. It's just what I do at the moment. It's not going to be long term. I'm going to do it for another couple more weeks, and then I need to start building some muscle. So because in my head, I've trained myself to believe that everything I'm doing is permanent, there's no short-term goal. I'm not getting messages from people saying, oh, how's your prep going? How's this going? Oh my God, are you hungry? Oh my God, look at your face. Oh my God, you feel like shit. Oh my God, what's the first thing you want to eat when you get off stage? I'm not surrounded by any of that stuff because I've not said to anyone I'm doing a show. People think I'm doing a show. Everyone's like, you're competing this weekend, aren't you? I'm like, no. So everyone's adamant I'm doing it. And I'm like, even to my wife, she's like, come on, babe, what show are you doing? I'm like, Lucy, I'm not in a prep. This is how I live my life. And now she will not say the word prep to me. She will not say the word this. She just goes, this is JJ. This is what he does. This is his life. And no word of a lie. And I text my mate this morning. I said, right, if I told you you can get crazy shredded and it doesn't impact stress, mood, performance, training, like relationships, would you believe me? He said, I'm going to say no, but I know you're going to tell me yes. And honestly, it is crazy. And even just saying it now, my mind is blown because I've been 3 weeks out from a show before, dragging myself up a staircase because I've got no energy. Now I'll run up the fucking thing. It's crazy. And that's kind of something that I've done at the moment. And, you know, the reason why I've kind of been doing it is, you know, I've you know, prep clients. I have clients that are doing photo shoots, and I won't entertain a conversation about junk food. And I say, I'm like, listen, if you've got the energy to focus on that, go and practice your posing. Go and practice a routine so I can actually see a decent routine on stage. Like, do something with it. Go for a walk. You're going to come in leaner. And don't be obsessed and fixated by these things. And I don't know what your experiences are or what your methods are with clients, because you've prepped way more people than I have. In terms of managing eating disorders post-prep. And again, it comes off the back end of one of your posts that I've seen the other day in terms of managing rebound. So it's kind of two different things really. So let's focus on like the bodybuilders, athletes and eating disorders and what your kind of experience and thoughts are. And whether you think my experience is my experiment is like crazy or not.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it was crazy because I don't know the ins and outs and complete depths of it. There were things that I kind of picked up on that I was like, oh, that's possibly a little bit of a red flag, but I'll speak to you about that post podcast. But no, reverse dieting, coming out at the back of a stage prep, it is vitally important that you control the rebound.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of rebounding. I think it's an absolute dog shit way of coming out of the prep, because rebound, I actually put a post up about one of my clients yesterday about managing the off season and managing post prep. Now, when you go into a prep, you are going to be malnourished, you are going to be tired, your macronutrient balance is going to be out of the water, because it is all person dependent, of course. But the majority of people, especially smaller females, in the last few weeks prior to, you know, hopefully reversing into a show, because I like to reverse my clients into their shows. I do not like to actually deficit them into it. So I use the terminology of suffer early and peak well. Because if you're suffering all the way to stage, you're going to look stringy, you're going to look depleted, you're going to look flat, you're going to fail to carb up. So suffer early, do the hard work early on, and then slowly reverse into the show. You're going to look a hell of a lot better. And you're going to feel good too. Now, when you come off the back of stage after all of this malnutrition that has been going on, your body is tired, your body is going to be looking faded, you're going to feel like shit, you know, lethargic, heavy legged. The main important thing is that you get yourself into a maintenance or a slight surplus, just to get you feeling a little bit more human and drag you out of that hole very quickly. Yes, of course, you're going to gain some weight. It's inevitable. You need to, but your body is primed to lay down body fat. Very famous study by a guy called Eric Trexler. He did a study on, now don't get me wrong, it was natural athletes, not assisted ones as well. So we're just going to focus on natural guys. But in the first 3 to 6 weeks post-competition, regardless of what kind of surplus they put themselves into, they did not gain an ounce of lean tissue. It was all body fat and water, of course, you know, glycogen restoration, water and body fat. That's all they gain. They gain no muscle tissue whatsoever, because the body is not primed to go. You have got to prime your body into a physiological state where you can actually grow. Now, if you just step off stage and you eat all of the cookies, all of the burgers, and just basically have this huge blowout for a week, and you gain 12 pounds, 14 pounds in that week, which is very easily done, you have automatically fucked up your off-season. Because your internal mechanisms, your insulin response, it's just basically gone complete kaput. And you're going to be bloated, inflamed, full of water. And then all of a sudden you've got this mentality of like, oh shit, you know, I fucked up my off season, so I'm going to have to reduce all of my calories. I'll cut out all of my carbs. I'll then go and do a load of cardio again, putting yourself into that fatigue state. Whereas what I personally do with my clients coming off any kind of prep, whether it's going to be bodybuilding or making weight for strongman or powerlifting, for example, because, you know, it's still the same kind of realms, we always have a plan set for when they come off stage. Always. The week before, we actually discuss what is going to be happening. And don't get me wrong, coming out of the stage prep and reversing, especially if you are going to be competing again, whether it be in 12 months time, 18 months, whatever like that, it's going to be hard.
It's really hard. I think it's the hardest phase of the whole prep.
Hardest phase.
Because when you're dieting for a show, like, you're not going to go off plan because you know you want to win. Whereas when you're in that sticky spit, you have that devil and angel on your shoulder, don't you? We've all been there.
Yeah.
So with your clients that have that, how do you manage that? If they really just have this desire that they need to eat an off-plan meal, how do you work that in?
Oh, I talk to them. I talk to them. We allow them to have off-plan meals, absolutely. But they will have a set diet plan. So the one thing that I do in order to get nutrition into my clients is, again, I don't just macronutrient them. I will not just give them a set of macros and say, right, there you go, have fun. No, absolutely not. Because if you have been in prep, regardless of whether you've been on a meal plan or in macros, right? There are only certain amounts of food that you can have and certain types of food that you can fit into macros anyway, right? So you have basically been eating the same thing for the last 6 weeks going on to stage prep, right? If you come off stage and you are given a set of macros, the first thing that you're going to do is come downstairs into the kitchen and go, oh, what the fuck do I eat? You're lost. You are a lost puppy in headlights. So I will give everybody a set meal plan. The week before they go on stage, I actually set up a video call with them like this. And I'll say, right, this is what we're going to do. Because yes, I am going to give you a bump. Normally, obviously person dependent. I'm not just saying do this, so please don't take this as gospel. But anywhere between 800 and 1,000 calories bump from prep is what I put my people on. Again, person dependent. We will then create a diet plan, which gives them 5 to 6 protein feedings a day. Normally, their protein is slightly higher based on the fact of need of satiety. So we give them a little bit more protein, but we always actually analyze their diet, what they want to have in the first week. I check in with them every day. Pictures are still every day to keep them into that habit and routine, because leading into a prep, about 2 weeks out, well, between 2 and 3 weeks out, I will get my people to check in with me with pictures, with weight, with how they feel every single day, because I look at refeeding them as well, possibly every 2 days, again, per dependent. Same kind of thing when you're coming off stage. Food focus is going to be massively high. Cravings are going to be high. You'll have cravings for shit that you don't even like. And you'll be like, and it will be so distracting. But this is where I say to my clients, this is why you have me. You have got to have an external support mechanism, because it's all very well and good having a wife, having a husband, having best friends, blah, blah, blah. But if you're there saying to your wife or your husband, the need for cookies is fucking real, guess what? They're going to go out and buy 2 tubs of Marylands for you, because they don't want to see you suffer. Whereas you actually say to a coach, my cravings for cookies are ridiculous. We're going to say, okay, let's actually have a look. Is this something that you really want to eat? Is this something that you actually like eating? No, I fucking hate it. Right, let's get out for a walk. Get out for a walk, put coffee in a travel mug and go and sit outside in the environment. Because there's a big difference between true hunger and cravings.
God, you just said, I was just about to say, I was like, because I'm a big believer in that most people are craving the feeling of being full rather than necessarily. And my tactic that I've done over the past 6 years is that when I get off stage, I have like a nice big like salmon and rice meal. Like, because it's not nice and oily. I love salmon. I love rice. I'll normally put like a condiment on it that I probably haven't had during prep. So maybe like a nice like chili mayo or something like that. And that's what I'll do. And I'll sit there. I'll chill out. I'll sit there with the wife and the kids after the show. I'll eat that meal. I'm not forcing it. Do you know what I mean? It's probably going to be bigger than what my normal meal would be, but it's enough to make me feel fulfilled. And what I do is I go home, wash up the tan, and then relax. And then it's kind of like, okay, now what? Because I feel that what most people do, and you've probably seen it, is that they'll rush off stage. You're inundated with options of nice foods at bodybuilding shows now, donuts, cookies, cakes. They're the busiest stands at every bloody show. They'll be straight there, bang, 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 eat. And because that's the only option there, and because of the hunger is like stripes with cravings. And that's what most people do. And it is just that element where people just actually want to be full. So sometimes I just believe in giving them a good quality, decent sized meal just to pull back the cravings. And that's sometimes a tactic that I use. And that's why I quite like salmon, rice. It's normally quite a good meal, and then have it so it's a bigger portion. So when they've eaten it, they're like, actually, I kind of feel fulfilled now. I'm not here scratching my eyeballs out because I want some cookies. And that's normally a tactic that I do that works quite well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it does work very, very well. But like I said, hunger and cravings are 2 very, very different things. So I'm a celiac, right? And when I competed at the FitX, I got given my athlete bag, and inside that athlete bag were 3 cookie dealer cookies. Now, 3, I know. Do you know what? Everybody said that. They're like, 3, God, you're lucky. I'm like, do you want one?
Special treatment.
Everybody just kind of had one, and I got 3. I was like, oh, I got special treatments. That's very, very nice.
I packed the bags at FitX as well. Maybe I messed up.
Yeah, maybe you just kind of went, oh, that's Vic. So sabotaging Vic. That's what it's all about. But yeah, you know, I mean, and this is the thing. It's almost a given culture now in bodybuilding. But the minute you walk off, you're going to have cookies. You're going to have donuts. So
do you think it's a cultural thing?
It is, absolutely. I do think it's a cultural thing. You think about anybody and you say to them, describe me a bodybuilder's diet, they're going to go chicken and rice, bro. Because they are, because that's
Wow.
exactly what bodybuilders do. You know, they eat chicken and rice. But why do they eat chicken and rice? Because it's an easily absorbable carbohydrate. You can have it in high volumes. Chicken is a really good whole protein source. And again, easily digestible, readily available. So, but everybody will have a culture for it. And the culture now in bodybuilding, which is what you see at all of the shows, you don't see meal prep companies at bodybuilding shows anymore.
No.
You know, you might see them in expos, but you don't actually see people actually providing salmon and rice, actually providing chicken stir fries or something like that. No, you see people providing cookies laden with Biscoff and additional cookies and monster faces, brownies, double stacked kind of shit, donuts the size of your head from Planet Donut, you know, and it's like, oh, ideal for post-show. I'm sorry, why is it ideal for post-show? This is ideal for fucking up your off-season, fucking up your internal health, making you feel like shit, and also creating a terrible relationship with food mentally. Because you've already created this terrible relationship with food from the over-restriction capabilities of prep. Now, all you're going to do is associate walking off stage with an even poorer relationship with food, because the first thing that you have is a fully laden, craven down meal. Now, if you want to be full, and I say, if you say to me, right, Vic, I'm so hungry, it's distracting, I'm going to be like, okay, here you go. This is a plate of crudités, carrots, cucumber, hummus.
What's that called?
A crudité.
You're way more sophisticated than me. I've never heard of crudité.
Darling, yeah. Here is a plate of raw veg and hummus, right?
That's better.
There you go.
Veg.
Right.
No, I'm from old. It's hummus.
Hummus, right?
Hummus.
Raw veg and hummus to dip it in. Do you want it? If you turn around to me and say, well, no, not really. Right. Well, then you're not truly hungry.
Yeah.
But if I was to say to you, right, okay, here's a donut from Planet Donut. Is this what you want? Yes. Okay. No, that's a craving. They're two very, very different things.
Yeah.
So it's, again, this is all about management of an athlete's psychology, giving them a specificities. I'm very difficult to say that word, but giving them specificities in terms of aims towards. So I always set up people's timeline as well. So we have a timeline across the year, right? And after they set up, we always have a recovery. It's going to encompass nutrition, but it's also to encompass your supplementation, because you're going to need to supplement. Okay, bottom line is you're going to need to supplement. You're going to need to have essential oils from fish and krill oils and various of the EPA, DHA, in order to get your hormone balance back up and running. So you will have a supplementation protocol for recovery, you'll have a nutrition protocol for recovery, and you'll have a training protocol for recovery. Because again, you can take 3 days off the gym, mentality goes a little bit wired, I want to go and train, I want to go and train, I want to go and train. Fine, you're going to go and train, but you're going to have it in a recovery status. We need to taper back certain things. We need to hold the intensity back. And as long as they have got the plan laid out in front of them and say, this is your recovery phase, anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks. After that, they know it's going to be a recovery phase that they are working towards. And it's not going to be a set diet for 6 to 8 weeks. It's not just going to be set training for 6 to 8 weeks. This is the reason why you have more support post-show than you would do at any other point in your off-season.
Yeah.
And that's how I manage it. But we do manage things in terms of self-care, self-empowerment, self-perception, training, nutrition, internal physiology, bloods, biofeedback. There's so much involved with a bodybuilding prep because, for pardon my language, it fucks up your body.
Absolutely.
And it fucks up your mind. And it needs to be able to be cuddled. You know, you need to cuddle your clients.
And one thing you see like more often than not is a client will tend to work with a coach, for a period of time and for a prep. And then, it's expensive prepping for a show. It's not cheap. And then you work for a long period of time and you accumulate all of these healthy habits. And then what then happens is then the show comes. And I see it quite often where then I will see that, oh, this person's no longer working with that person, then they go on their own. And normally, probably it's financial reasons, because they've spent a lot of money during a prep. It's not cheap with all the food, all the supplements, coaching, hotels, tan, show. For girls, it's even more expensive because bikinis, makeup's a lot of money. So normally like, okay, shit, I need to rein it in now. And normally they stop. And that's always one of the biggest mistakes you see. And that's, you know, why the rebound is so important. And then they'll stop. And all of a sudden, all of the habits that they've accumulated, they'll then pull back on. And then, and that's why, you know, it doesn't matter whether I'm off season or pre-contest. I do not leave, like, you know, when we go away, I have my fridge with all my meals. It doesn't change because my habits are the same in the off season as pre-contest. The only difference is portion sizes.
Yeah.
And output levels, everything is the same. So for me, off season and pre-contest, my behaviors are not different. And that's what I try and preach to my clients as well. It's like, no, this is always, this isn't a short 16-week thing. This is now what you do all the time. And train your brain in thinking that way. Then all of a sudden, preps actually become easier because you're not all of a sudden going, oh shit, now I've got to like prep all my meals a day. Because normally it's like you're out and about and you go and grab something from Marks and Spencer or Subway or this is as long as I'm getting my calories and I don't really care. So all of a sudden you've already accrued these behaviors. And that's why there's nothing I hate more is when someone comes up to you and goes, I signed up for a show in 12 weeks time. Would you mind coaching me? It's like, oh, it's impossible to do because you need to work with them for a long period of time prior to a prep to make sure that you can get them perfectly ready for that show. And that's quite a common mistake that I see in terms of people managing a rebound just because they get rid of the coach. And then all of a sudden they're not accountable to somebody. They haven't got the discipline to be accountable for themselves. All the habits that they've accumulated slowly start dropping off. All then the kind of external pressure start kicking off. And then before you know it, it's gone to shit.
Exactly. And I see people take out their cardio immediately.
Yeah.
You know, they just stop all of these various different things. I'm sorry to kind of like cut this off, but I do have another appointment in like 5 minutes.
That's okay, no problem.
But yeah, I mean, managing psychology and managing recovery from any kind of diet, cut, phase, whatever. It is massively important, and you shouldn't be doing it alone. You should be completely supported to make sure that your internal health physiology is optimal, because that's the one thing that is going to provide a good off season and good progressions, you know, is managing the internal mechanisms. So don't forget that in the prep, it's not just physical.
Absolutely. Well, Vicky, it has been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I could sit here and I'm just sat here just listening to you talk because I really like your psychology on the whole fitness, bodybuilding, coaching, perception. So I've enjoyed just sitting here listening to you for an hour. So I hope all the listeners have enjoyed it as much as I can. I feel like I could have sat here for another hour listening to your wisdom. So thank you very much for your time. I massively appreciate it. Okay.
Very welcome.
Not a problem. Okay, well, thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget, as always, drop the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, Vicky. Goodbye. Have a good day. Thanks for listening. Bye.